command lines in terminal. So before we go into how to install a web server on Linux, I need to clarify something. To run a web server nowadays, it means that besides of installing the latest version of Apache web server, one must also install other components of a LAMP ecosystem. Okay, so LAMP stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. So basically, LAMP is the acronym for those software. So it is clear that to have a really effective web server nowadays, through the LAMP configuration, one has to install Linux as the operating system for the server, Apache as a web server, MySQL as the database server, and PHP as the scripting engine, which supports the PHP scripting programming language. So, in case you don't know what is PHP, well, PHP is what many huge web applications or websites use today to power their web services. Of course, there are other sources of web scripting engines that power other web scripting programming languages too. For example, like Ruby and so on, or even Java. But PHP is one of those most popular web scripting programming engines and languages out there. So, by the way, you don't really have to use a LAMP configuration to have a web server going, but LAMP configuration or ecosystem is one of the most popular ways of getting a web server going nowadays. So, of course, in the future, things might change, but nobody knows what the future will hold. So let's take a practical road and stay with the present. Let us take a look at how to start getting a web server going on Linux, shall we? So I will be installing a web server on Linux Mint 14. Linux Mint 14 is the operating system for my Linux server. By the way, whenever I say a server, I mean it is a machine that is configured to do some specific tasks such as hosting a website. Nonetheless, a server can be just about any machine. For example, the desktop computer that you bought not too long ago from a local store can suddenly become a Linux server easily. How? Just install Linux as the operating system for the desktop machine you had there, and then installing other components within the LAMP configuration, and there you have a web server going. Obviously, you can turn a Linux machine into other sorts of servers too, such as a game server and so on. Nonetheless, I only be talking about web server source of stuffs in this video only. So, before we get into the nuts and bolts of things, I assume that you have already installed Linux Mint 14 or 13 or Ubuntu 12.10 or Ubuntu 13.04. Of course, you can have another Linux distribution as your operating system too, but following the instruction within this video for getting a web server going might not work out for you. So if you use any other Linux distribution other than the ones that I mentioned that you should use, then you will meet problem if you follow the instructions within this video. So now I assume that you already power up the Linux machine of yours, as I have done so with my Linux 14 machine. Linux Mint 14 machine here. Okay, so now you need to open up a terminal. Basically, I'm already opened up mine, but let me show you. If you use Linux Mint, you can click on a terminal and open it up, or you can just go to menu, I guess, and then tap in the search box terminal, and then you should see a terminal icon right there. Just click on that to open up a terminal. Okay, so in here you should type in as sudo -i to become root, sudo space and then -i. Let me zoom this one in just so you can see better. Oops, zoom in actually. There you go. This is command line. Sudo and a space and then a dash and I to become a root user. You have to type in the password for your root account. And once you tap that in, or for your sudo users basically, you will become a root user because I already have a root user account open right here. So if I in the terminal here, if I type in who am I, it will say, it said that I am a root user basically. So let's see if I zoom this one in so you can see it better. There you go. It's if I type in this command, who am I? It's I am a root user, so that's good. Now, okay, so the first step to get a web server going is to type in this command line, apt and a dash, and then get space install space lamp dash server, and then you need that special sign right after the word server, but no space between that. Okay, so hit enter key in your keyboard and you should see a bunch of stuff get spit out in the terminal here, and it asks you, do you want to continue? Tap letter Y. So when you tap letter Y in there and tap hit the enter key in your keyboard, basically what happens is that Linux machine will go out and grab a bunch of packages from the Linux repository or repositories, and then it download onto your computer, download those packages. Those packages are Apache, the latest version of Apache web server, and the latest version of the MySQL database server, and the latest version of the PHP script engine. Okay. So once it's done downloading all of those packages, it will install onto those packages onto your computer. So now it asks me that to enter new password for the MySQL root user here. So I should enter one. The thing is, if you use this for a real purpose, like some sort of application, then you should actually enter a really strong password. But for me, in this case, for the sake of the tutorial, I just type in a simple password basically. So the password is, I'm going to type in as 1 2 3 4 5 6, just for the sake of the tutorial. And then hit the tab key in your keyboard to jump to the OK, and hit enter key to actually enter that password. And then it's asked me to repeat the password for the MySQL root user here. I would type in 1 2 3 4 5 6. Remember that you have to remember this password that you typed in. Okay, so later you can actually access your MySQL server as a root user. Okay, because the root user can do pretty much everything on MySQL server. You can actually create new users or delete users and so on, or add newer database without any trouble. Now, if you only have a regular account of a regular user in MySQL server, then you are very limited to what you can do on a MySQL server. But the root user can do pretty much everything. But of course, you always need the root user to create a regular user first on the MySQL server anyway, just like on Linux server or Linux machine, or just like on whatever other machines. Okay, so now we already have a web server going. How do I know this? Well, let's take a look at our web server. Okay, if I open up a web browser right now, and if I let me actually maximize the browser here, and then if I tap in localhost, right, and then /, and I tap in, let's say, index.html. If I do that, a web page will pop up. Actually, it popped up here. It says it works. This is the default web page for this server. The web server software is running, but no content has been added yet. Now, let me just minimize this browser right here. Now, if I go back into my terminal here, and if I do like this, service, if I type in this command, which is service space, and then the next part is Apache 2 space, and then if I tap in stop, right, check this out. This command right here is actually stopping the web server and shut down the web server basically. Okay, and now if I go to my web page again, I'm in my browser, and then if I refresh the same web page, it says unable to connect. Firefox can establish a connection to the server at localhost. The site could be temporarily unavailable or too busy. Try again in a few moments. If you are unable to load any pages, check your computer's network connection. If your computer or network is protected by firewall or proxy, make sure that Firefox is permitted to access the web, and so on, right? Even if you hit the try again button, it won't work because you just stopped the server already. Okay, so now if I actually enter this command right here, which is service space Apache 2 space and then start, and hit enter key in the keyboard. Okay, so now I just started a web server again. Okay, check this out. Now if I hit the try again button, it will work again, as you can see that. So basically that's how you stop and start your web server, okay? Now, since we done that, but right now I bet you actually kind of like wondering like where is this web page comes from, right? So let me show you. If you type in cd space /var/www and hit enter key, that means that you want to change into the www directory. Now if you do ls to list this directory, you will see that there is one file in there, which is index.html. Okay, so as you can see up here, localhost is the machine here that you have the web server going, and then index.html is that file right there that you see in here, in this www directory basically. Now if you tap in gedit space and then index.html, you basically open up this file in the text editor, and you can see that this is the HTML source code for the web page here. It's a HTML, the body, h1, it works right there, and then the paragraph started with this is the default web page for this server, and that is closed with the ending paragraph tag right there. So that is the exact web page that we're looking at. Okay, so let's get out the source code right there for the web page. Now, so now you know that if you want to create a web page and make it shows up on a web server, and so you can access the web page through the web server from the browser, then you must have to place that web page inside this directory known as www, right? Because it is a root directory for your web server basically. But there is one thing though. As you notice that if I do ls/la, you will see that this file index.html file right here is belonging to root account, root owner and root group right there. If we speak Linux, it means that this is very insecure, because if you use a root user for anything that can be accessible by other people, it means that they can actually they can mess around with your computer basically. They can actually find an exploit to your web server and then elevate to some kind of I guess level to actually become root. So it can break out from web server and become a real root user and then just mess around with your whole system and then destroy your web server if they want to. So that is a very big problem. So you would not want to do that, right? So you would want your web pages to be owned by other than a root user basically. So that is the whole idea, to have it more secure. And you would want it to have the correct permission for your web pages too, right? Or the web directories, right? So 644 is the right permission for a web page in a directory of the web server. What is 644? Well, if you know, I assume that you know somewhat about Linux permission, right? So you need the Linux permission, which is 644, because the first group, the first 3 bits of this permission here, read stands for number 4, write stands for number 2. So if you add 4 and 2 together, you get 6, right? Now, if you want to add number 1, it will be like 7, because 1 is for executing. So if this file will not allow anybody to execute anything in this file, So it's only like read and write. So 6 for the next group. The first group is for the owner, permission for the owner, which is read and write only for the owner. The next group is the next 3 bits, which is only letter R, which is for read only. As I mentioned earlier, R stands for number 4, right? So it's 4. And then this group is for group only. Okay. The next group, the next 3 bits. The next 3 bits is for basically. I believe it is for like anybody else, everybody else basically who want to access this page, this file right there. So it's also number 4 because it's only letter R. Okay, so the owner can read and write, the group can read only, and everybody else can only read this file too only. So that is the permission for the correct permission for a web page. Okay. Now directory usually has 755. Okay. Anyhow, but so how are we going to change this problem here so we can fix it? Well, we can do like this. We can use chown, which is to change the ownership of the file, and make that into, let's say, change the ownership to www-data, put a colon, www again dash data for index.html right there. Now if you do lsoa, index.html now is belonging to not root but to this user right here, www-data, right? And the file here is belonging to the group also of the www-data group. Okay. What this means is that from now on, whenever the web server fulfilling your demand for this web page right here by serving this web page right here, it will serve as a it will serve this web page as the user www-data. Okay, so if you're wondering, will this work? Well, yes, it is, because if I do a refresher, it will just showing up the same web page, because this www-data is a default user for running a web server on my Linux machine here, which is the Linux Mint 14. I assume this will also be available for yours Linux machine, because this is very common on many Linux machine basically. Okay, so so you should be running any web page or any directory within a web folder, within a root of the root folder of the web server as www-data. Okay, not as root. Okay, for security reason, and you have to have the right file permission and directory permission for your files and directories. Okay. All right. So now, since we have that down, I want to show you something even better. Okay. So let's say I'm going to move this index.html here to another location. Okay, I will move this one right here to my home my Ben user home folder. All right, and I go to home Ben. Oh yes, the command line to move the file is mv space index.html, which is that file right there, and then space, and then /home / a username for a user on your Linux machine. So Ben is like a desktop location for your Linux machine right there. Yours might be different, because if you use, like, let's say if you name your user as, like, let's say Smith or John, it would be home John or home Smith, right? So if you cd, which is change to the directory home Ben, and you do ls to list whatever you have, you will see that your desktop documents. Okay, Ben is a home folder, not a desktop. Okay, it's a home folder basically. So home folder for user Ben basically, and then you will see that there is that index.html that I just moved in. So now, if I make a directory known as web, okay, if I do ls to list the whole place again, you will see that there is a web directory that I just made actually. And then if I move this index.html into that web directory I made, if I go into web and do ls, I will see that file right there, right? Now if I refresh this web page right here, it's a not found because I already moved the file, right? Remember, index.html to my user bin home folder, right? Inside the subdirectory known as web, right? So the web server doesn't know where this file now. Now you have to let it know knows where it is again, right? So let me show you how to do that. I will go back to var www. So the command is cd space /var /www, and if I do ls, so this is the place again, you will see nothing there, right? Now if I do a symbolic link, which is to make a shortcut for that index.html file. So let's say you have imagine you're on your desktop, right, and you make a shortcut for a web application, for a software, right, on your desktop. And so next time you double click on that shortcut on your desktop, you just open up the software without having going to like folder to look for the software, right? So that's the same idea basically. So I'll make a symbolic link here, which is like the command is ln space -s, stand for symbolic link, space again, and then the location of the file is home bin index web / of course index.html, and then a space, and then I type in this right here, which is index.html. No, let's type in a different name, okay? Type in, let's say, my new index.html, okay? Now if I do ls to list this place again, I will see that there is not my new index.html, but this one is not any file, it's just a shortcut, okay? That points to that index.html inside the web subdirectory, which resides underneath the bin home folder, right? So if I do ls space la actually, and then you will see that my new index.html is pointing to the the real file, which is index.html under that resides within the web subdirectory, right? So now if you do a refresh right here, you cannot see the web page still because it's index.html actually. So if you type in my new index.html, which is like, let's say, localhost / my new index.html, and you hit enter key, you will see the same web page, because now the shortcut becomes the name of the file, because the shortcut is the one that actually resides within the root folder of the web server, right? So when you refer to the original file, you have to refer to the shortcut name, because when the web page asks for the shortcut name, it will actually pull up the original file, which is index.html. But sometimes people want to make this as easier to remember. They will actually, let me remove this shortcut right here by using the unlink command, unlink space my new index.html. And then now if I do ls, the shortcut is gone. So usually people want to have the same, let's say, unless your original file is a very long, it's a file that with a very long name, then you want to have a shortcut, an easy shortcut, a shortcut with an easy name to remember, to link to a file that has a very long name. But in our case, we have index.html, which is a very short name for a file, so it doesn't matter. So we should, for simplistic, we should just name our shortcut as ln. Okay, hold on. Shortcut as index.html2. Okay, so that would be easier for us to remember, right? So now we do ln space, that's s again, and then space, and then / home bin web index.html, and then a space, okay, and name our new shortcuts as index.html. So this won't be too awkward, because usually whenever you you host something on your web server, the first thing your web server will look for is the index file, basically. Most web applications or whatever web things that you work with, usually you have to create a new file known as index.html. So because the web server will always look for that file first before it looks for anything else. So let we type in localhost / index.html. We will see that it works. This is the default web page for the server, right? There we go. So that's how you work with your web server, basically Apache web server. Now, since we also already installed the MySQL database, right? MySQL database server. So, but how are we going to work with it? Because like many web applications, it's very complicated. Those applications need to have a web database to actually manage, information for the applications. So mostly that will be the case. So even if you want to create your own web applications, you might need to have your own web database, right? So how are we going to do just that? Well, how are we going to work with MySQL? Well, if you know MySQL command lines, then you will be just fine. You don't really have to install anything else. You just work directly with MySQL as a MySQL root user. But for many people, including me, we don't remember the MySQL command lines. So what we're going to do is we're going to install this software right here known as Php Myadmin. As a root user, okay, who am I? As a root user right there, you want to install the Php Myadmin inside your terminal here. So type in this app, okay, dash get space install space Php Myadmin. Alright, now you have to type letter Y, capitalize letter Y, hit enter on the key on the keyboard to actually install this software. Now it asks you web server to reconfigure automatically with, you should choose Apache 2, okay, because that is the web server that we installed earlier, okay? And then hit the tab key to select OK at the bottom, and then hit enter key on your keyboard to actually let this configure the web server, okay? And the web database, basically, which is MySQL database server. Okay, now we need to configuring Php Myadmin here. It said that the Php Myadmin package must have a database installed and configured before it can be used. This can be optionally handled with dbconfig-common. If you are an advanced database administrator and know that you want to perform this configuration manually, or if your database has already been installed and configured, you should refuse this option. Details on what needs to be done should most likely be provided in /user/share/doc/php myadmin. Otherwise, you should probably choose this option, configure a database for Php Myadmin with dbconfigure-common. Well, I want you to choose yes, because we're going to allow this thing to configure our MySQL database, right? So select yes and just hit enter key on your keyboard, and it now asks you that to provide a password for. Hold on, let me see. Okay, so now you have to enter a password for your machine here. So basically, enter the root user account password. What root user account password? Your Linux machine, basically. You need to know the password for your root user on your Linux machine, or a sudo user on your Linux machine. So I would type in my password, okay? So give me 1 second, let me pause this video. Okay, so I just typed in the password. Now I just need to hit the tab key in the keyboard to select OK and hit OK. Okay, so now it asked me that to enter the password for Php Myadmin. So, I believe I entered the wrong password for the first time around. Okay, my bad. Okay, guys. I just got like I just draw a blank right there in my mind. Okay, what happened the first time around? It asked you to enter administrator password, right? Don't enter the root user account password. You have to enter the password for MySQL root user, basically. Remember, when you first create the when you first install the lamps dash server thing, and it install MySQL packages, MySQL package for you, and it asks you that you need to enter a MySQL root password. Remember? Well, root user password. So you remember I type in 12345 as the simple password for the MySQL root user. That's what you need to type in for the first time around. Okay. For me, I just typed in the wrong password the first time around, but now it asked me to type in the password for Php Myadmin. So this time around, it's a new password. You need to type in for Php Myadmin user for within the MySQL database. Hopefully, I make this clear enough. But let's see. Okay, now you need to type in one. Well, for the sake of this tutorial, I will type in this password as 1234567 Okay, hit OK. And then confirmation 1234567 tab to select OK and hit enter key, and it say an error occurred while installing database because I typed in the wrong password the first time. Remember, so basically I need to retry, and it say like configure database for my PHP Myadmin with db-common, and I select yes. Okay, so now come back to the first part again because I have to type in the password for the root user for the MySQL server basically. So it is 12345 is the right password. Okay, now why it asks you that in a way in the first place? Because it needs to become a root user for the MySQL server to be able to create new user for you later on if you want to create new user or new database within MySQL server basically. Okay, so now it's like okay, and then now it doesn't need to ask me about entering the password for Php Myadmin user anymore because it already remember the options, and now just configure it, and now it's done configure the whole thing. So now we have Php Myadmin works, right? I mean we have Php Myadmin working basically. So now I need to go back to my web browser right here and type in localhost /php Myadmin basically. Okay, and hit enter key, and here you will see Php Myadmin web application graphical user interface here, and you need to type in the username as root. Okay, and then hit the tab key to jump down to the password box right there and type in this. Okay, remember I tap my root user password for the MySQL server is 12345 right? Remember, so I type that in and select go. Click on the go button right there, and there we go. Now I'm inside the MySQL database. MySQL server basically. Okay, so as you can see, these are the default database that MySQL automatically installed when it first was installed by Linux. Okay, so the test one is a test database, is an empty database. It's just for testing purposes. And you don't really want this one because it's nothing really. So you want to go into, you want to click on home right there, home button right there. So you can select database. Okay, and when you click on that database, you will see this section right here. And what you need to do is you want to check the box next to the test database and click on drop to actually destroy this database, basically the test database. And select yes button right there to delete the database test. Okay, now don't delete the MySQL database and don't delete anything else because everything else is important basically. Okay, but the test you can delete it. Alright, okay, now let's say if you want to create a database, how are we going to do that? Well, you can do it like this. You can click on let's see, privileges. Okay, and let's say add a new user. Okay, why are we click on add new user even though we want to add a new database? Well, we add a new database, but we want to add a new user at the same time to manage that database, right? So this is what we're going to do. So in the username field, type in, let's say I guess Ben. Host, we type in local. Okay, for localhost basically. So we select local, okay, and then it would automatically insert localhost for you on the text field. And then the password, you want to leave that as use text field, okay, and then type in the password over here. So use a Ben password. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to enter a simple password, which is 123456, 123456, and then I'm just going to scroll down until I see there is that section where it says database for user. Now I want you to choose the radio button where it says create database with the same name and grant all privileges. Okay, that is the radio button that you want to choose. Okay, because we want to create a new database with the same name as Ben, because this user named Ben, right? The database should be named Ben also, so it can. So later on, if you want to use the database Ben, you don't really have to look up the user because you already know that the user is the same name as the database name, right? That will be easier for you to work with in the future, right? So that's why we want to create the database with the same name and grant all privileges to the user that of this database basically. And then, as you can see at the bottom here, it has two buttons. Click on the create user one. Okay, click on that, and now it says you have added a new user. So over here you don't see that new database yet, but you see there is that new user Ben, right? But if you click on a green icon to refresh this panel, you will see the new database known as Ben. If you click on that, you will see it is an empty database basically. Alright. If you click on home, if you click on another database right there, which is information underscore schema, that is the default database that that MySQL database server installed from the beginning. This one is important to the MySQL server. That is why it is here. This is why you see this is a full database, and you can see all these entries within the database table here. I mean all these tables and entries. It means that this database is fully functional. Okay. Alright, so that is how you work with a database within MySQL server through the Php Myadmin web user interface right there. Okay, so let's see what I should talk next about this whole thing. Alright, so we mess around with the database, the web server. Okay, so let's talk about PHP really quick here, because I forgot to talk about that. Okay, so PHP is a script, a web script language engine, right? That actually supports the PHP programming language, basically. So if you want to go google.com and type in this right here, PHP Info, and what I want to do is to create this php.info file. Let's see, not that. Okay, I need to copy this parameter right here. Copy, and go back to our terminal here, okay? And what I want to do is go into the home Ben web directory right there, and what I want to do is to tap this in, okay? Basically, let's say I want to open up an editor to edit the php info.php file. This is a brand new file. I'm going to create and name it as php info.php, okay? And hit enter key to open this up as inside the editor here. And I will paste what I just copied earlier. Let me view tool. Actually, no, edit preferences, font, and make this a little bit bigger. Okay, now you can see better. This I just paste this one into this file, right? And if I click on save, right? Before I do that, I want to show you something. Since I haven't yet saved the file, that means I haven't created the file yet, right? So if I go like this, if I open up a tab on my browser right there and type in localhost / php info.php file, I will not see it. It's a not found, right? Now check this out. If I click on save right there, and then it saved the file already. So now I have this file in the web server, right? Now if I refresh this, you won't see it still because I haven't made a symbolic link to that yet. So what I want to do now is to get out of this file, and I will need to go back to the the root folder for the web server, right? So I see change to that directory which is / cd space / I believe var / ww, 3 W's only, and then hit enter to enter that folder, do ls, and now let me do let me link, okay, make a symbolic link to that php info file right there, which is ln space dash s dash / home bin web, and then php info space, and now php info dot php. Okay, now if I do ls, so this place, I will see there is that file php info dot php, right? This is the shortcut to the original file, okay, that we created just a moment ago inside the text editor. Now we do a refresh right here. We'll see that it says right here PHP version 5.4.6 dash Lubuntu 1.2. This is the version PHP version that you install on your web server. Earlier, remember I do the app-get space install space lamp-server with the _sign. When we did that, it installed this PHP onto our Apache web server. So from now on, Apache can work with PHP files and applications. So when we create that this php info.php file, it means that we want to test out to see if our web server is ready, is PHP ready or not. Okay. So now here is the proof. It means that when we see this whole page right here, it means that our web server is fully functional in terms of PHP readiness. So in the future, if you install, let's say, a web application that is using PHP scripting engine and programming language, then if you want to know that if your web server is ready for PHP, then you just create the php info.php file to see if your web server is actually ready for PHP. And if you see this page, you know that you can install PHP applications onto your web server basically. And sometimes, there are different modules that will work with PHP, or different PHP modules and so on that will work with your web server. You want to see what your PHP is capable of, then you will see all these extension modules within this PHP info page, really. Because it's right here, the core, it allows the directives of allow underscore URL underscore f open and so on, a bunch of directives right here. So basically, sometimes hackers who want to hack your web server, and if you have this file on your web server and you have not deleted before you install your web applications, they will try to pull up this file to see if your web server is PHP ready, and to see what version of your web server that is running. I mean, what PHP version that your web server is running. And when they see all that, they will try to see all the information within this page to see if you're running an old PHP version or not. If it is an old PHP version, they will know what exploits that can be used against the exact PHP version that you have. So just to make sure that when you host a web application, you need to delete the php info.php file that you created on your web server, because you don't want people to know what PHP version that you are running. Okay, so that is what is PHP. So let's test our web server. Okay, how are we going to do that here? What we're going to do now is we're going to install WordPress onto our web server, just to prove to you that our web server is PHP ready, because WordPress was written in PHP language, programming language I meant. So let's go to WordPress.com to download WordPress web application here. My bad, WordPress.org, okay, not .com, .org. Alright, so now click on download WordPress 3.5.1 right there. Actually, you have to click on download again. Alright, so it's a zip format, okay? Select save file, save to whatever you saved on your computer. Open containing folder right there. You see there is that WordPress that I just download. Now I need to go back into I need to open up a new terminal. go into that download folder and unzip this file. And now I unzipped the WordPress already. And now let me get out of this terminal and become root user right here, which is I'm already root user inside this terminal. So so it is okay. So I'm ready to move on to the next step. What I need to do now is to clear up this terminal so I can see better. I don't want to see all those gibberish stuff right there. So I have a cleaner terminal now. Now what I need to do is I need to go to download again. I'm in home, bin, download. And I need to move this WordPress right here to the unzip one, okay, not the zip one. The unzip one is the WordPress only without the zip extension. Move that WordPress to home, bin, web folder, okay. There we go. Now I need to go to CD. I need to change to that directory home, bin, web right there. If I do ls space -la, and we'll see that WordPress is belonging to the user bin and the group bin. I don't want that. I want it to be as www-data, remember? So I need to do chown space -r, big R, okay? I mean capitalized letter R, okay? Space, and then WordPress. I mean www-data colon www-data and space and WordPress. So this is the complete command right here. Chown space -r space www-data colon www-data space WordPress. Okay, without the with or without the forward slash, it doesn't matter really. And now just hit enter key. And if you do ls/la, you will see that WordPress is now belonging to the user www-data and the group www-data. If you go into that WordPress folder, you do ls/la, you will see that everything in here is now also belonging to www-data user and www-data group. Okay, let me go back up one level and clear this terminal and do ls again. Let me remove php info file right there because I don't need that anymore. Do ls. Because I already know that my web server is PHP ready, okay? So I mean it's PHP capable, so I don't really have to worry about that. Now I can install WordPress. Alright, so now we already have WordPress in our home folder right there. I mean in our web subdirectory within the bin home folder, right? Now we need to go make a symbolic link for that inside the root folder of the web server, right? Which is var www, right? Now I have to make this, I have to unlink that shortcut to PHP info right there because I don't need that anymore. Okay, now so let me make a symbolic link for that. And space -s space and then home bin web and then just type in WordPress, I believe, yeah, space, and then just over here I just type in block, okay? So now block is pointing to WordPress home WordPress folder actually, okay? If you do ls/la, you will see that block is pointing to WordPress folder right there. Block right there is pointing to WordPress folder. Okay. Now we need to install WordPress basically, okay? So I believe it has a tutorial right here to how to install WordPress on WordPress.org website. Let's see where it is. Let's see. Handy guy. Click on that, I believe. Things to know before installing WordPress. Famous 5 minutes install right here. Let's follow the instruction here, okay? The famous 5 minutes install. So unzip the WordPress already. That's the first step. Create a database for WordPress. So now we need to create the database for WordPress, right? So we need to open up our Php Myadmin, right? So we need to go to localhost /php myadmin and type in the root user for the username right there, and the password for the root user is I believe it's 1 2 3 4 5 6 if I remember correctly. Yep, that is the password. Okay, so now I need to create a database for WordPress. So I need to go to privileges, click on add new user. Text field right there for username should be let's say block, because I want it to be block for the username for WordPress. Okay. Host, any host? No, I want it to be localhost. Okay. And then password, I want to type in password as 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Of course, you need to create a strong password, but for me, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to create that simple and crazy password there, which is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay, so let me choose to create database with the same name and grant our privileges. Okay, and then click on create user. Now I click on Repressor. I have this new database known as block, but this database right now is empty. It's just not a fully functional database at all, but we need it because we need to install WordPress, right? WordPress will automatically inserting new or database tables and data within this database when we get to install WordPress. Okay, so now let's go back to that instruction page right there. It says now that we need to rename the config-sample.php. So we need to rename that to wp-config.php file, right? So let's locate that first. Okay, so we need to go into block and ls that. Let's see, where is that page? Where is that file? wp-config, right? So we need to move wp-config.sample.php to wp-config.php. So this is the command right here. You can move a file to a different directory or the same or to different location of within your computer, but you can also move to the same location, but whenever you move to the same location, you basically change the name. When you change the name, that means you just rename the file. Okay, so a move command can have two functions really. So right now I'm changing the wp-config-sample.php to this new name, which is wp-config.php file, and hit enter key. And if you do ls, you will see that that file has been changed to wp-config. Where is that again? Right here. Okay, so now let's see. Let's edit that file. Okay, we do gedit space and then type in wp-config.php, and now this file is now opening inside this text editor. Now we need to enter the database name that we had created earlier for the database that we want to use with WordPress, right? So the database name is block, remember, and then the user is block also, and then the password, remember I type in as 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, right? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Hopefully that will be correct. Localhost as a DB host. Okay, it's as a database basically. Database host machine, which is on localhost. Okay, and now the database char set to use in creating database tables, just leave that as UTF-8. Okay, and the collate, you can leave that as empty, it doesn't matter. And everything else, let's see, we need to do this right here. We need to go to this website right there, that link right there. Just copy the link and then open up a new tab in your web browser, paste that, go there, and then just copy this whole thing right here. Copy, go into that file, and right underneath the last we're looking line right there, that close up this whole common because these are the common stuff. This is not really the commands or the statements for our program. So the WordPress will ignore this completely within this file. You can delete that if you want to, but if you don't want to, you can leave just like that and just go underneath this special line right here and paste that whole thing in that we just copy over there on this the browser. So now we have this whole thing known as define auth key, because as you can see up here, define auth key, right? Since these are residing inside the comments, it means that the server will ignore these lines up here. Okay, so it will read these lines though, they're down here because we're not inside the comment, because the comment started with this asterisk and forward slash, and it will end with the asterisk and forward slash basically. Okay, but just to be sure, you can delete that if you want to. Alright, just delete that. Alright. Okay, now let's scroll down and see what else we need to change. Everything else looks good. And we need to save the file, okay? Save the file. Get out. Get out of the tab if you want to. And now let's see what it says right here. We need to upload the WordPress files in the desired location on your web server. Okay, we already done that, remember? We already moved that to the home-bin web subdirectory, and then we also make a symbolic link for that, right? So we got that going. And now let's see what else we need to do. We need to go to the root. Okay, we need to go to WordPress location that we install on our web server. So we need to type in localhost /. Remember, I named location with the symbolic link as block, right? So type in block, and then there is the installation page right there for the WordPress. Now site title, we just type in like my very first blog on this web server. It doesn't matter, you know, you type in whatever there. Username, I stay with admin, and password, you need to type in twice for. Okay, so the first box for the password is I'm just going to type in 1 2 3 4 5 6 just to make sure that I can remember that password later. Confirm the password. Second box is 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, your email, just whatever, you know, like admin. Actually, root at localhost.localdomain. That's a fake email address, by the way. As long as it has a proper email format, then this whole thing will work. Okay. Privacy allows search engines to index the site. No, because this is just a tutorial. This is, I mean, I installed this WordPress right here for tutorial purpose only. I don't really need this to be indexed by search engine. Okay. Click on install WordPress. Now WordPress is now installed on the web server on my machine here, and the username is admin. Okay, the password that I had chose earlier. Now click login. Okay. Now the username is admin, right? And password is 1 2 3 4 5 6. Remember? Log into your WordPress application right there. Right there. I mean, like that, right? So now basically you have a WordPress web application running on your web server. That's how you install WordPress on your web server. This is an example of how you install a web application on your web server. There are way too many web applications out there that you can download and install on your web server, and you can do whatever with them. So I go through this process just to show you how powerful web server is, because you can use web server to host a website, basically. Okay, guys. So far in this whole video, you learned how to install web server onto your Linux machine, and you also learn how to create a database, MySQL database to be exact, and you also already learned how to install a web application, which is the WordPress application right here. Alright, so if you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and thumb up the video. Thanks for watching guys. Bye bye for now.